All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our weekly 30-minute webinar. My name is Brian McKay, Systems Engineer here at Verify. I'll be your host for today's session, where we're going to be talking about Webex calling and the differences between auto attendant, hunt group, and queue reporting. Here to walk us through it, we have Mike Stratton, fellow Systems Engineer here at Verify. How are you doing today, Mike?
Good, Brian.
Good to hear. Still recovering from Chicago last week?
It was a short drive home.
Yeah, it was fun. Let's see. Please note that these webinars are always recorded and posted within 24 hours, so you can review them at any time. Check the webinars page on our website for all past and upcoming sessions. All right, first, let's go ahead and start off with a overview of our company and what we do. Then we'll jump into the live demo where Mike's going to guide us through the aforementioned report types and the differences between them. We'll pause for a brief Q&A afterwards. If you have any questions, please make sure to type them in the Q&A panel at the bottom right of the screen. After Q&A, we'll reward one lucky attendee with the $50 Amazon gift card, so hang around to see if you've won. Quick overview of Verify. We are the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco and Zoom collaboration. Deployable either on-prem or as a hosted cloud solution, we provide industry-leading call reporting and analytics, as well as customizable dashboards and widgets, UCCX reporting, remote phone control, change management, Cisco Cube CDR, and our latest addition, Zoom and Webex call reporting. If you have questions on any of our features, please contact us at support@verify.com or simply reach out to your account manager. One other thing before we kick this off, for an additional fee, Verify offers an enhanced consulting service to our customers. Verify's SE team engages with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building, dashboard configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you with a dedicated Verify support engineer to do the heavy lifting, giving you a stress-free and hands-off experience. For more information, please contact us or your account manager, and we'd be glad to speak more in depth about pricing and terms of service for our enhanced consulting services, or ECS. All right, with that, let's get into the wild. I'm going to make Mike presenter here. And over to you, my friend.
All right, here we go. Find the share button.
Yeah, always a challenge.
All right, I think I have the right screen. There we go. Cool.
Yep, looks good.
Out of the way. All right, so welcome everyone. We're gonna kind of go over, like Brian said, auto attendant, hunt group reports, and call queue reports. And I want to really kind of dive into what the data looks like. I'm not so. I mean, we have the reports. We'll show the finished result. But the main thing here is kind of focus on how do you identify the calls? What do they look like? How do you filter them? Because they're, for a lot of our customers coming from Call Manager moving to Webex. The data it's similar. It's in the same kind of ballpark, but it's a little bit different. So I'll start with auto attendant data, as that's kind of maybe the easiest one to kind of go through. And so I'm in call history. This is our demo/lab system. We've got some little bit of data in here, and so in call history, it's a great way to kind of just like play around with different queries, and then you can visualize in the detail section, what data you're pulling back. Is like, if I'm building a report, I don't want to build a report just with just call counts, especially if I'm building a report with data that I'm not completely sure, what I'm getting back. Because if I just get a report and there's 30 calls, that's great, but what are those 30 calls? And so that's why I kind of lean on call history to make sure that the calls I'm pulling back are truly the ones that I want to see, and there aren't like duplicate records, like when you get calls being transferred to a hunt group and stuff like that. So with the Webex data, the best way to search for your auto attendants, or just kind of the best way to identify them, is not using call party number, but within the criteria, there's a search criteria called, whether there's two. There's a terminating, well, here, I'll just bring them up. It's going to be the calling party user type or the called party user type. In this case, if you have calls going into an auto attendant, you will probably want to rely on the called party user type. So if we add the criteria, it timed out. Go back in. I had that for too long without doing anything. Let's refresh it. There we go. Okay, jump back in. 1 second. There we go. Okay, back in here. So we're going to look for the search for the word types, a couple different types of criteria. We want to select the called party user type. And this the user types are in the Webex data are pretty important. And if you kind of lean on them a little bit, you'll be able to kind of pull out what you want to see, not just for auto attendance, but for user-based reporting, hunt groups, and for queues. So in this case, if I want to see all the calls that came into my auto attendance, you can have one, you can have more than one. The user type that is applied to the auto attendance is this one right here, attendant video. So if I select this and let's just run it for like the current week, I'll pull back all of the calls that come into the auto attendant. Now, before I search, at the top here, we do have two different ways to search. One is by sequences, the other is by events. I'm going to start off with sequences and I'll explain exactly what an event is and then what a sequence is. So ran the search, it pulls back 411 calls. And then we have, if you're familiar with call history, we have these different rows of data. And then if I expand on it, you're going to see all these different call records here. And so what we have here, if you think of on the call manager side or for data, if you're familiar with it, the cradle to grave data, where as the calls are transferred and as they bounce around, they go from device to device. Each hop creates a new record. And so the same thing happens with WebEx data. The individual records are called events. When you put the records together, they're called a sequence. So this here is a call sequence of a bunch of different records. Each row of data is an event. So when I'm searching for sequences with auto attendance, it basically it pulls back, it finds the record with the auto attendant record, or if it finds the call, the auto attendant call, and then it pulls back the rest of the sequence. So not all of these records here came or went to an auto attendant, but this record here, not this record, this record here is the one that went to the auto attendant. You can see it here under the called party user type column. So if I change this, if I don't want to see the sequences, I want to see just the events. I just want to see the auto attendant calls. We can change it up and then research, same 413 calls, but now every record here is a record where the called party user type matches my criteria of attendant video. So here we have the different called party numbers. Each one refers to a different auto attendant. I can pick on one. In this case, if I just want to pick on the one I was doing last night, 3338. So if I want to filter on a specific auto attendant, I can keep this criteria in under attendant video, and then just also add a second criteria for the called party number. So we'll go ahead, type in what I'm looking for, called party number, add to the criteria, and again I can pick on 3338, and now I'll see the 39 calls that went to the auto attendant for the past or for the current week. Now if I go back and then turn on the sequences, view the results, now I can see just the calls into that auto attendant, but I can also see where the calls went to. So if I pick on this call here, if I expand it, we can see these two records or the first two records kind of belong to the same kind of part of the call. So we can see Isaac here at this extension, which is kind of masked as this number here. They called in to 3338. They were there for 43 seconds before the call then goes to a hunt group. So then Isaac goes to the auto attendant, hits the hunt group, and then when we get into the, we can kind of jump into the hunt group data real quick. The call was presented to the hunt group. We see an entry for each agent where the call was presented to, and then we see a whole bunch of agents here, and then it looks like no one picks up because the final record here is they're all zero duration records, and the call goes back to a different hunt group, and then still wasn't picked up in the end. So if we pick a different one, that one's a pretty big record. Same one here, or same idea. Call comes in, Carly calls in, hits the auto attendant, then goes to a hunt group, and then we have all the different agents here. No one picks up again. No one's picking up this over here. Ryan picks up. So Ryan picks up, talks to Carly for 10 seconds before the call ends. So when going at the auto, when reporting on the auto attendants, the best way to do it, and you can play around with it within your system with your data, lean on the called party user type for attendant video. That'll either identify if you want to see all auto attendants, or that if you have a specific one in mind, then you can also filter with the called party number, and then you can see all the calls going into it. Now, to turn this into a report, if I jump into the report section, I did build a report last night. This is kind of we'll start with the unfinished report here. So my search set called party number equals 3338, and then we're also doing called party user type is the attendant video. So same thing as I did in call history. And then from there, you can build out your search set, or you could build out your search set statistics. Total call count, average duration, whatever you want to see from the data. We'll turn off the criteria there, and then you can do call history details. If you want to see, I mean, if I'm building a report, I'm not quite sure, what the data is contained in. I'll turn on call history, assuming it's not too big of a report, and then run it that way. So if I save this report and run it just to see the calls coming into the AutoTend, it'll be the same thing as what we just saw in call history. But once we run it, we can take it one step further. So let's do part 1 here. Do it for the current week PDF. Okay, so here's the report. Same 39 calls that I was seeing in call history. And then here's the detail. And then you can see this cradle to grave. We can have, here's that one call that wasn't answered. It went to one hunt group, it went to a second one. 25 call legs. So we're seeing a lot of data in the cradle to grave. Usually when we have people running reports on like IVRs, auto attendant, anywhere where someone can go in and then there's transfer somewhere else, we usually get asked, well, how can I see where the call went to? And that's where the cradle to grave data comes in. In this case, like here, if we have all the calls coming into the auto tenant, I want to know, how many times was a call presented to, this hunt group or this hunt group or any of my hunt groups. So what we can do is go one step further, close out of that guy, and then go into my final copy here. So the final change I made to this report, I turned off call history because I like the detail, or I reviewed the detail. I don't need it in the report. I'm really just concerned with, how many calls came in, what was the average duration. And then if I go to cradle to grave, which we've renamed here to complete call sequence, you can build additional search sets on the cradle to grave data or the call sequence data that'll filter for some some value or some number within the data. So I built 2 call sequences or 2 criteria here. Both are looking for hunt groups, and both are looking for specific hunt group numbers. So I'm looking for how many calls came into 3396 in the additional sequence data, and then how many calls came into 3397. And then from there, I'm just showing total call count, answer call count, total call duration, and then average call duration. So if I run the report, if I save it and then run it, not only will I see how many calls came into the auto tenant, but I can see how many calls. I've identified 2 hunt groups, and I can then present metrics on how many calls came into the auto tenant and then went to one of those 2 hunt groups. So let's go ahead, current week, and then run it. Okay, so here is my criteria, all inbound calls. There's those 39 calls again. Average duration 4 minutes and 5 seconds. So now here's the call sequence search summary or search criteria summary. So that's the part at the bottom of the report here where I built the query for my hunt group 3396 and then hunt group 3397. So I have for 3396, I have 10. So out of the 39 calls, I have 10 of those calls went to 3396. 27 of those calls went to 3397 for a grand total of 37 calls. 9 were answered, and then 26 were also answered by hunt group 3397. Total call duration, so total call length, and then the average call duration for each of those records. So we can so by taking that data, by taking the auto attendant data, and then mixing it with the call sequence criteria, you can not only identify how many calls came into your auto attendant, but also kind of where they went to. So all right, so we'll do this, and then we're going to jump back to call history, and then jump into call queues and hunt groups. So I'm going to kind of, for call queues and hunt groups, I'm going to kind of combine them into the same kind of section of the webinar because the data really is the same, except just the terminology, call queues or hunt groups is different. But visually, the data really looks the same, and there's not really a big difference, except call queues just kind of provide queue time. So when reporting on call queues or hunt groups, the same kind of rules apply. So we're going to go back to the well, there's a couple different ways to do it. And we can lean on the called party user type, and you can definitely filter on either the hunt group or for call center or for call queues. You can do call center premium or call center standard. So these two will give you call queues. Hunt group will give you hunt group if you want to see just all data. Also, but although for hunt groups or call queues, we also have criteria specifically for hunt groups or for call queues. Called queue. So we have called hunt group or called queue. You can select from the list. So the nightly sync that runs with the software will go out and pull in the names of all the different call queues or hunt groups. So you can select from the list. You can select more than one. If you want to find a call queue or a hunt group that's no longer active, turn on the show historical options, and then you'll see it in the list. There'll be a little flag next to the name to identify that the call queue or the hunt group is inactive. But I don't think we have any in either one of these two. That'll show the flag. No, I don't think so. So in this case, I'm going to pick on a hunt group instead of a call queue. We'll just go to the Chicago office and just run a report for the current week for all the sequences into the office. We'll go ahead and view the results. Okay, so like we did with the auto attendant, we're going to have multiple calls in the sequence. If I just pick on, let's pick on this one right here. This looks like a really easy call to see. So, so understanding the data, the first two records here, much like what we saw before with the auto attendant, this call here, Heather dials into the auto attendant. So she dials 3339, goes to the auto attendant. She's there for 3 minutes 19 seconds. Now, in your environment, if you don't have an auto attendant, you may not have this first part of the call. The hunt group then comes into the record or comes into the sequence in the next step. Heather then goes to the hunt group. So this record, so with the hunt group data, there's really two parts to it. And same thing with the call queue. There is the main or like the first record that shows the call going to the hunt group, and that's that record right here. So this is Heather going to the hunt group. So we can see the called party user type is hunt group. Here's the name of the hunt group, everything, and here's the duration of the call. So there's the hunt group record, and then after the hunt group record, we get a record for every time the call was presented to an agent. So, and that's one thing we didn't get with call manager data, but we do with Webex calling data, where we can see how many times a call is presented. So like within call manager data, we only get the answered part of the call or when it's answered. But with the agent level, at the agent level, we can see how many times a call was presented. So we can see who's not answering, or who's not answering a call when it's presented, or we can get different metrics on answers versus presented. So in this case, the call was, I believe this hunt group was the call was broadcast. Reese, Rex, and Belinda, they did not answer. That's why we have the zero duration call here. And then Isaiah did answer the call. Isaiah spoke with Heather for 2 minutes and 56 seconds. So we can see there's the hunt group record, which identifies the call at the hunt group level. That duration is 256. And then the user level or the user record, where the called party user type is also user. This also gives the duration of the call to the agent. So when we're looking at the data, we do see that the duration is kind of doubled. That's okay when you're building out the reports within the different levels. If you separate them using the user type, this duration, it works out really well when reporting in either the calls to the hunt group or the calls to the different agents. On the call queue side, it's the same idea. So if we just pick, I think finance is pretty, you can pick any of these, and should be the results. It looks the exact same, where we have, here's the call comes into the auto attendant, and then the call here goes to the call center, or the queue. So here's the queue record, and then underneath it you have the user records. And if someone answered this record, you'll see the duration here. So 2 minutes and 9. In this case, though, you have 2 minutes and 9. And then 2 minutes and 6 seconds. So that 3 second duration is going to be the queue time. So you have you have here, and then you can see it here, queue time of 3 seconds. So and then we can take this data and then also turn it to a report. So we do have for the call queues and for the hunt groups, we do have some templates that are available on our website to download. So we can You can start off with those and then modify them to however you want them to look. So if I start with like the hunt group summary report, in the search sets, we're looking for all the calls to a hunt group, where the called party user type is hunt group, and then also the called hunt group is, you would enter it with your own hunt group. So if I went back to the Chicago office hunt group, so here this record or this report as it is looking for, or it's reporting on those hunt group calls. So I'm not including the agent data in the report. I just want to see how many calls came into my hunt group. So if I save it, then actually, if I go back to the search just to see what we're including, I think we're just doing grouping. Yeah, we're just doing grouping for the hunt group, and then with some different stats down here. Details are turned off and by default, and then so is curly gray. But you can always turn it back on if you want to. If I run the report, then similar report for the call queues, call queue summary report. It works the exact same way. Search set. Here's your called party user type. Call center premium or standard, and then you can pick your queue from the list. So if I just do the hunt group reports and then we run it, search time current week works for me. And then, so here is the report. So this is looking at just the calls into the hunt group. Like I said, we're excluding those agent records because if not, they would really increase the number of calls. So if I go back to the call history, if we just did a basic count of total call count for just the hunt group or the call queue, it would count this record, this record, this record, this record, this record, this record, this record. So like one call would count 6 or 7 times. So by using the called party user type and by setting it to hunt group, we're only reporting on that call once, and we're only reporting on the hunt group level. So we can see in the grouping section how many calls came into the Chicago office. 21 calls, 21 of those calls were answered. So 0 calls were not connected, the percentage 0, and then we can show the the average duration, total call duration. So pretty straightforward. Little graph at the bottom, just showing the busy hours, total calls, answer calls, not connected calls. So great report, easy to run. The important thing though is if you don't use the called party user type, your call counts are going to be pretty high. If you just want to run a report looking at how many calls came in, because that one call has many legs, especially if you have a lot of agents available. So like here, if I run the agent report, a little bit different. We're just using the user as the called party user type. So here we're looking at called party user type as user. Let me go back to Chicago office. Checking on this group here. And now by default, this report is also excluding calls with 0 duration. So I'm excluding the presented legs. I only want to see how many calls were answered. If I remove it though, and then go into the search set stats, actually go into the grouping. Actually, I can do, if I do the search set stats, we'll get answer total and there. If I include the call sequence count, that'll give us a good idea of how many calls came into the queue. So it's kind of combining the queue stats with the agent stats. And if I go to grouping, we have the called party name, which will be the agent's name, and then answer count, total average duration, total call or answer total duration. If I add total call count by getting rid of the 0 duration or the calls less than or greater than 0 duration, by getting rid of that, I'm including all those 0 duration records where the calls were presented. So then now this report would go from just answered call count to how many calls were presented and answered. And then details turned off, everything else is okay. So we'll go ahead and run it real quick. And then sorry by agents. Okay, so here's the report. We have, so by removing that 0 duration filter, if I would have stuck with or kept total count in here, it would have been, my total count would have been 84, because each record counts is looking at how many times a call was presented to an agent. So you've got like those 84 agent records that, because we're looking at the agent records. This count would have been 84, but by going off of the sequence count, I'm looking at the number of sequences. Therefore, my sequence count is 21. Answer call count is 21. And then average call duration, total call duration. This is looking at it from the point of view of the agents. Um, and then here are my agent stats, so I can see Isaiah, Rex, Belinda, and Reese. They all have 21 total calls. Total call count here is the number of presented calls, and then answered call count is the number of handled calls. So now we're looking at the 84 in this case is a little misleading, or it's kind of confusing. Just understand that that's the number of calls that were presented, or how many times each agent was presented. So really, in this case, the 84 doesn't really mean anything. Really, it's going off of the 21, and then we have the answered call count. So we can see that Rex took 8 calls, Belinda took 3, Reese took 6, and then Isaiah took 4. And then we can also throw in additional graphs and reporting for each of the agents. So I think in a nutshell, that's kind of it. I mean, just to kind of summarize everything. When looking at the Webex calling data, and not just for hunt groups or call queues or for auto attendants, but like just everything in general. From what I've been seeing when building out reports with different customers and just playing around with the data in my lab, the calling party user type and the called party user type are really important criteria to kind of use to kind of filter, what you want to bring into the report. So if you're looking for auto attendant, use the attendant video. Hunt group, you can use the hunt group, or if you want to report on the agents, use the user type in the report, and then do some additional filtering with either the hunt group filter, the call queue filter, or the called party number filter to bring in the different numbers and stuff into the data. So I think I'll pause here, pass it back to Brian. Do we have any questions or anything that we can?
You know what? Funny you should ask. Normally this is the Q&A part of the program, but I can't get the Q&A or any of the chat panels to load. Are you able to see anything on your end?
Let me try it. Let me.
Weird.
I got the Q&A, but it looks different. Let me see if I can get. Oh, it's not sending chat. No. Hang on. It's not chatting. No. Let me stop sharing.
Okay, I'll share mine.
There we go. I see Scott. Scott's Q&A just came through. No, I don't know if the Q&A is working.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I guess if you have any questions, sorry about that, folks. If you have any questions, just go ahead and email them to support@verify.com, and we can address those offline. Apologize for that. It's nothing like a little glitch in a live presentation to spice things up. Okay, well, I guess let's move along then. This is the part you're all usually anxiously awaiting, the winner of the $50 Amazon gift card this week. And this week it is Kevin Healy. Congratulations. Your account manager will be reaching out to you with that gift card. All right. Thank you again for joining us. We appreciate your time. We know everybody's really busy, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us as always. Our next workshop next week is going to be on call scenarios for hunt group reports. It's September 6th, and that's going to be hosted by Dre and Victor, so be sure to register for that. And we will see you all next time. Thank you.